I'm going to do it now for myself and tell everyone, take a moment to really let this sink in. This is a really beautiful time to be part of a game that's just starting.
All right, so I stand corrected. We're going to actually have the Sett mirror match, which is going to be really interesting. I think mirror matches are a conversation that's not really like talked about enough yet. And granted, the game's not even out yet in the Americas, but I love just like the theory crafting and things like this. Walk me through a couple of the big things that you're seeing here immediately. By the way, I will say one thing. The records, they're very important. We are playing with modified play draw, which means whoever has the higher seeding will get to choose to be going either first or second. In this case, Tog, which is, you know, kind of like the goat spelled backwards, is first seed and will decide going first or second. How does that actually impact the matchup? Do you think it matters?
It certainly does matter. I am not the expert on Sett or really any deck at this point, but I will say that it's always going to be an advantage, especially, like, again, that player skill expression. Like, if you know your deck and you know, is my deck ramping and wants to actually go second, which can be an advantage in Riftbound, versus going first and having that early drop, it's going to make a big difference. The biggest thing that pops out to me here is that rune configuration, as we see Vendorty having those 10 body runes and only two order versus the 8-4 in favor of body there for Tog is a big difference and a big difference in configuration here as we look at Tog's deck here on it.
Yeah, so walk me through some of the important things that we see here for the Sett deck list for Tog.
Yeah, so right off the bat, we're breaking my one rule, which is main deck sabotage. You know, Anu, main deck duress is not something that you see a lot in Magic. However, this is seed number 1 in the top 8, so I'm going to eat my words here. Maybe sabotage is just main deckable. I think we've seen throughout the tournament playing against the Master Yis and the Aris and the Kaisas, like, you're almost always going to hit something relevant, which is not something that is always the case in Magic, but seems to be the case here in Riftbound. But also, combat being such a central focus of Riftbound, knowing what your opponent has access to in terms of combat spells, like the calls to glory, the disciplines, the you name it, all of that is very, very important. So seeing the main deck sabotages here is not that surprising, even though I definitely called it a misplay in previous weeks.
Well, speaking of main deck sabotage, once again here in Vendorty's deck list, there are also 3 copies, and I want to give a highlight here to a card that I see triple of, which is Sett Brawler up in the top left. Now, that's an interesting choice of champion.
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, obviously, the deck is based around Sett. You've always got that one in your hand. We generally only see, with the exception of Red Kaisa, we see 1 copy of the champion, so that you've just always got that, and then the rest of the deck is filled out with other cards. Here we're seeing that Orange Sett be the full complement here. I mean, he's a big boy, right? Like, this is a way to end the game. I think we, as Riftbound players, are really figuring out the win conditions in Riftbound. Are you going to overwhelm the board and use something to buff your board like Victor is doing, or are you going to have an absolutely massive unit like Orange Sett? And obviously, we see the full complement here in that deck.
All right, well, as we are about to get into the very first game of our top 8, Blev, I got to ask you a question. Who do you think is favored in this Sett mirror match?
Ooh, well, I'm going to do the silly caster thing and say I think Sett's going to win this one. But, I mean, it's really hard to vote against the number 1 seed in Tog here. I mean, the deck lists are very similar, but there's a few key differences. I don't know if I agree with the full complement of sets, but hey, enough of me talking. Let's jump right in to game number 1 of our top 8.
All right, getting started here. We're going to take a look at mulligans. I assume that Tog is going to be going first. And it's kind of interesting, too, because I was thinking a little bit about this matchup in particular. And when both players have access to the set passive, one thing that does seem to be very important to me is the ability to just like win naturally in combat. In that case, are there any cards that you think are particularly exciting?
Well, yes, there are. I mean, having the early board presence is definitely going to be really big. I mean, the Cythria here is quite nice as you just get those buffs just naturally by developing your board. But a Poro, whew, just such a good 2-drop. Cythria Cloudfield, there we go. A great 2-drop there, getting the buff, which not only increases her might, but also is, opening up access to the set passive, opening up the monastery there to be able to cash it in to draw a card and then get another buff when you just play another unit. What a massive start here from Tog.
Yeah, absolutely. Playing the Trifarian as well to follow up gives you the Legion buff. And we're going to pass over to Vendorty now to see what we're going to do here with 5 energy available. I mean, is it as simple as just slam, our chosen champion, or
just slam Sett?
See if we go like hard some other way here.
Yeah, I feel like you want to go wide at this point because your opponent is going wide. I mean, having one giant unit is great, but you need to have the setup to get the buffs on Sett to really get him going. I mean, yeah, I would want to go wide. Obviously, it is going to be hand dependent here, but just developing a Sett. Not contesting the board, especially at the monastery, which is going to be a highly contested battlefield here, as you're going to be able to, both players are going to want to spend those buffs to draw extra cards, keep the cards flowing, keep the board full, and I think we're going to see a lot of fights over this monastery.
All right, something that I'm also kind of curious about is to watch how Tog leverages that Sett passive ability. So that ability says when a unit would die, you may recall your unit and you may recycle 1 rune to sort of keep your unit alive. The question is do you use it at every single possible opportunity? Like, for example, here, you have Cythria. Cythria is buffed. You can protect the Cythria with the Sett ability. Or is it more important here to have that energy? Looks like Tog has spoken. We're going to recycle that rune. We're going to bring Cythria back to base. And the turn's going to finish here with Sett Brawler coming into play on the other side.
Yeah, the big boy is here, buffs himself, and is going to just, spend the buff to get big. When I'm played, or conquer, get a buff again. And you can just keep doing that. You can, if you have ways to keep giving buffs to Sett, he's going to be absolutely massive. And is going to be able to take these battlefields. I mean, this has got to be the game plan for this version of Sett, is just get the Sett Brawler out and, basically Voltron, right? Like, have the Super Saiyan Sett, try to take over one or multiple battlefields with Sett or sets and just hold.
All right, well, Sabotage is going to come into play, and it's going to reveal a hand of Challenge, Showstopper, Kinko Monk, Fiora, and another Humble, Daring Poro. Looks like we've got one of 2 options to take here, the Showstopper or the Challenge. Is there a direction you're leaning?
I'm leaning towards the Showstopper. It's just such a strong... It's just a strong tool in Sett's toolbox. I mean, the removal spell is also very good. I'm curious what Tog is going to take here. Goes with the removal spell.
Yeah, kind of interesting here. And I see the vision here is eventually when you maybe get your Sett Kingpin into play, you really don't want something that has like 8 might or 12 might to just really remove it for free. One of the things that I've learned... Yeah, one of the things I've learned about the Kingpin is that it is a card that just naturally hits some of those like key thresholds you were talking about earlier. Losing it for free or, being forced to proc your Sett passive thanks to a challenge just doesn't seem that ideal to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Showstopper's ceiling is higher. However, like you said, the removal spell is able to, I believe, hit not just battlefields. Yeah. Showstopper, very strong, can help you actually take points, which is amazing. But the removal spell does allow you to hit units in base, which again, if you play your chosen champion and it just gets eaten for free, effectively, that's just a really low tempo play that you can avoid here, like Tog did.
Yeah, absolutely. The Trifarian Glory Seeker going to come into the monastery. It's going to, unfortunately, send the Poro into the trash. So, Hef's in the chat here for our friend. And then we're going to follow that up with a Pit Rookie that's going to buff Tog's very own. Oh, wow. That's a lot of buffs that are coming to play. The Cythrias are also going to proc as well. So
a lot of buffs.
Yeah. You know, I've solitaired a couple hands with Sett, and I don't think I've ever generally had hands that are like this resilient, this explosive when it comes to proccing buffs. And so it's really just like nice to learn from the master.
Yeah, it's really awesome to see a mirror match that feels like two separate decks like two different decks playing. You don't see that very often in other games. Like it's mirror match, it's like, oh, 73 of the 75 were the same, and 2 obscure sideboard cards were the 2 card difference. Like this is very much like a very different brand of Sett playing against itself.
Let's take a look at the hands here to see what kind of decisions we might be contemplating. On one side, for Tog, we have another Pit Rookie, Hidden Blade First Mate, and for Vendorty, we have Daring Poro, Fiora, Kinko Monk. And it looks like a set that must have been the top deck for the turn.
Yeah, another having that board presence possibility. And then the finisher, of course, can be one or both sets. And also that Hidden Blade. We've seen throughout the tournament the Hidden Blade being sort of a key way to finish a game. You can get into these board stalls where you go back and forth with taking one battlefield, then the opponent takes one back, then the opponent, and you just keep going back and forth, and the game never ends. But a Hidden Blade is a very cheap and effective way to remove the potentially solo defender, regardless of how big it is, from a battlefield and just end the game on the spot.
All right, so Sett's going to consume the buff here to jump up to 8 might. Assault Poro or Daring Poro also going to come into play. Kinko Monk is then going to rebuff the Sett, buff the Poro as well, and now we have a 9 might Sett crashing into the Monastery of Hirana to see whether or not we'll get our second point and I guess maybe even consume that buff to draw a card.
Yeah, it's so strong here because you can win the combat. You can consume. I'm assuming you can stack the trigger to consume to draw a card and then trigger the Sett to get the buff again. Yeah, you sure can. It's just you just get to have your cake. You just get to have your cake and eat it too, as Vendorty. But even if somehow that combat went wrong, Sett just goes, all right, legend ability, I get my Sett back. It's just such a free roll.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, the other decision too, which is that Tog actually let the Trifarian Glory Seeker go to the trash, chose not to keep it around here. Walk me through that decision. Why might we keep the rune instead? Yeah,
I mean, it has to be hand based, right? I mean, it can also be, Tog, as we've talked about, is very strong player, knows the deck, and like it's about threat assessment, right, of your own deck, like knowing what actually matters. Very important in games like these, especially in a mirror match. It's like, okay, yeah, no, having this, my 6th rune on this turn is more important than just having a basically a vanilla unit. And Tog makes that decision and is cracking back here, attacking the big Sett.
Yeah, kind of an interesting choice here. So we have just one combat in the monastery, pushing back Sett Brawler thanks to the 4 might Daring Poro and the Cythria at 2 coming in. And now I guess the question is, once again, are we going to keep our units alive? And the answer is no. We're just going to let the Poro go away here, consume a buff, draw a card, Very interesting management. Now, I do like getting rid of the buff on the Cytherea. That one is pretty expendable since you will have a high density of units. You literally have Sett in your chosen champion zone. See what the follow-up play is.
Yeah, with the monastery there and fighting over the monastery, it makes sense to, like, your cards are going to be flowing, so the choke point ends up being energy. You're just needing to have resources to play the cards. You don't want to have a bunch of cards in hand and not be able to play them while your opponent is actually having a bunch of cards in hand and playing them. Like, I think the card economy, just getting cards and material on table, is going to be, at least seems to be what the players are valuing at this juncture in the game.
Yeah, it is certainly going to be tricky here. I mean, we did choose twice to not recycle our runes, and this must be the payoff, which is now we get to play our Kingpin, we get to hold up something like the Hidden Blade, or looks like we're going to spend our 2 energy here to play the Pit Rookie, probably to buff the Kingpin. So now that set is going to be at 8 might, and I'm going to start referring to these as the Kingpin and the Brawler, and we're just going to load up here on the board. It's kind of interesting that the dynamic this monastery has created where Reckoner's Arena is just totally empty.
Yeah, not even taking the point. I mean, I think it's kind of like a prisoner's dilemma, maybe, where it's like, okay, if we both agree to not take it, we can play the real game here, which is, who's going to win the monastery, or like the first person that starts to take it like goes down this cascade, and it's like, oh, you're on the back foot, you're losing your material, your board material, and trading it for single points, which at 3 and 2 respectively is probably not that strong. Like, getting the first 7 points is the easy part, right? Like, the winning point is the one that really matters.
I like that one. I like that one a lot. So one thing that I will also give a brief point of mention to is right now I do believe that Sett Kingpin comes in with base 5 might, gets buffed up to 6, and then there are 3 buffs on that battlefield, so it should be at 9 might if my math is correct, and that is kind of a critical point. Like, that's like one of those like numerical thresholds you're talking about, where like, okay, if Sett Brawler gets buffed, it goes up to 5, you consume the buff, then it goes up to 8, and then it needs to get buffed again, only to be met face to face with the Kingpin, which is very, very well calculated here from Tog's side.
Yeah, really. Again, this is just like, it's the subtle genius, right, of someone who is coming into a top 8 of a multi-round tournament in the top seed, right, is like, oh, I know that at 9 this is great, at 8 I get eaten for free, at 9 they need to spend a bunch of resources just to trade with my tank unit that I had for free in my hand because it's my champion. Like, very, very heads up play, like just knowing, okay, I need 2 other buffed units in my buff set, and I basically have this wall of defense on a very, very key battlefield in this matchup.
Yeah, very interesting here. Now, I'm trying to think of the possible, like, combinations that you may need to have for your Brawler to actually win in combat, and it's so convoluted here that we're going to see Vendorty say, you know what, math is for other folks, not me. I'm going to go into the Reckoner's Arena, and handshakes will be everywhere. Both players now at 3 victory points.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the gambit happen of, okay, well, I'm giving up this battlefield, I'm going for the other one. I mean, at current pacing, Tog is on pace to win first, so Vendorty needs to break serve here somehow, needs to break this Hirana defense. I mean, I don't really know how you do it. It's gonna take a lot to do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to paint a little bit here, so just pulling out my inner Bob Ross. But I think what the real bottleneck here right now is going to be energy from Vendorty's side, and so what we really need to do is take a couple turns, get some more energy, and then we'll find ways to not just single or double buff our Sett Brawler, but I'm talking about that triple buff option in 1 turn where you can crash in with like 13 might or something absurd like that, and that surely must win combat. That must be the ace in the sleeve here for Vendorty.
I agree. But it's more of a matter of necessity at this point, right? Like you are losing the race. Your opponent, like if your opponent doesn't need to do anything right now, they can just keep building up their board for that counterattack and can accelerate the clock. It can accelerate the clock if need be by contesting the Reckoner's Arena, right? Like it is like Vendorty needs to break serve first, needs to make that first action, which is generally speaking a weaker play when it comes to these board stalls.
Carnivorous Snapvine is going to come into play from Tog's side. That's going to deal damage to the Sett Brawler, which is then going to recall the base, and Pit Rookie is going to enter Reckoner's Arena, bringing Tog up to a total of 5 points. We are going to awaken here on the other side of the battlefield, and let's see what the next play is here from Vendorty. And we'll take a quick peek at the hands here just to get a sense of where we are from both resource management and available options. So we know about the Showstopper, we know about the Sett Brawler from Vendorty's side, and it looks like we've picked up a second copy of Fiora, which, if I'm going to be totally honest, it doesn't seem so great in this matchup.
It sure doesn't. I think that may be an easy target for a side out. It certainly does a lot of work, I would imagine, in the less chunky mid-range decks in the format, but in this matchup in particular, not going to cut the mustard, so to speak. Looks like Vendorty is setting up what you said here, the big play with the set, with Orange Sett here coming in with the buff, with the Showstopper. Is anything else? Oh, I guess nothing else can come in because this isn't a combat. This is started from Showstopper, so it's the single set.
All right, and this one's going to be pretty interesting. So Sett has expended a single buff, is now buffed, is at 9 might, and we already recapped that the Kingpin is also at 9 might, so this could just be two sets, fist bumping each other and going back to base.
Yeah, passing in the night.
Now, unfortunately, Sett Brawler cannot consume the buff at reaction speed. That is a on your turn, outside of a showdown type of ability. So we are kind of just now. What I really like about this too is Vendorty's like, all right, the action is now on you, Tog, and you can sort of see. Look at Tog; he's just like deep in the tank, like crunching the numbers. So what happens here if I exhaust my Sett passive? What kind of lines does Vendorty have available to punish my double Cythria? And I think this is kind of why, if you are a Vendorty fan, you're excited to see the Showstopper Sett Brawler combination, is because you can, it's like a very small amount of resources contributed to, go into the board here.
Oh, we had the hidden blade, literally hidden from sight the whole time. That makes this a lot easier.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Hidden Blade was played, I'm going to guess it was played either on the last turn or the turn that we moved the set into play and played another Pit Rookie. So that's going to let Tog maintain control of the monastery for another turn. But now, with 2 extra cards here in Vendorty's hand, we kind of have to... Now we have to do something, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we absolutely have to do something, because if we look at Vendorty, they've got 4 runes here. I mean, so does Tog, but again, the ball is in Vendorty's court to actually make the move here. This Harana, this monastery is very well defended, and the clock is falling ever behind for Vendorty here, so they have to do something. Hopefully for them, these 2 cards are able to turn the tide and get through this massive set wall.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate here. I mean, just thinking about the numbers, right? So you've got 4 coming in from Fiora, another 4 from the Kinko Monk. That's what, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 from the Daring Poro, and then a total of 14 from the Glory Seeker. So
yep.
This appears to be winning combat.
It as it stands, will win combat.
But at what cost, though? Because we're going to see 3 units now go into the trash here for Vendorty. But it's kind of it feels like one of those plays that you must do.
Yeah, again, like Vendorty does not have the ability to just sit back and wait. Right now, we know because we checked the hands that Tog does not have any interaction right now, and I mean, I think part of the reason that Tog was in the tank there was yes, there's a decision to be made here. Do they want to just let this combat happen? Do they want to cash in the Hidden Blade? But also, being able to threaten the interaction in hand is something that this matchup is all about, right? Because, there's a lot of things to factor in when you're making combats in this game and in this matchup that, your opponent being in the tank for a minute there really makes you think, oh, they may actually have a spell that can throw my entire game plan off.
Oh, and this is a major play here coming in from Vendorty. Sabotage going to reveal a hand of no action or reaction spells. It's going to cost us a rune here, and that's the consideration that I have, which is, I mean, we really need excess energy in order to sort of come back. We need more runes in play to stabilize the board and the point total. And not trading for a card here. Okay, I can kind of get behind that. You get a lot of information, but how do you feel about the rune cost on this card and our potential comeback?
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. I mean, Vendorty sees basically exactly what they want, right? Like, I know what's on the table. You have 3 units in play, or you have 3 units in your hand. That's fine. You've got 1 card off the top of the deck. I mean, you're most afraid of these combat tricks and haymakers, and we saw none of those in Tog's hand. Even though you're falling behind in terms of runes. I mean, next turn you could still play another big set. You basically 5 runes is enough to have access to pretty much everything in your deck. Now, you're not going to be multi-spelling very much here, but at this point, at 5-5, it's only a couple of key turns won here to actually just end the game.
Yeah, it was really interesting, too. I feel like the first mate is not a card you want to see if you're on Vendorty's side, because that's going to enable some sort of hit-and-run tactics, which could give you a very powerful turn afterwards from Tog's side, which could be, just setting up a big base and trying to conquer battlefields that way. So we'll see what Vendorty is able to string together here. I do have, after seeing that giant set Brawler come into play earlier into combat, I do have a little bit more faith now in Vendorty's side. But THREE are going to come into play here for Tog, or maybe not.
Oh, we're going back in time. Yes, that was me rewinding in real time. Sorry.
That was really good. I'm going to have to clip that one for later.
Looks like there may be a discrepancy or something going on. Of course, this is the live games in person. This is the beauty of it. Okay, looks like we're back in time. Maybe just I want to go to combat first. And
yep.
Chat there.
So Snapvine going to enter the monastery, is going to take down the Glory Seeker. Tog going to go up to 6 points, play the first mate, rewind the Snapvine back to base, and this is exactly what we talked about earlier. The base is now big, and we're setting up for a nice 2 battlefield conquer coming up in the next turn.
Yeah, really key play here by Tog, because opponent being at 5 is huge, because yes, they'll get the 6th point here by holding, which we're going to see marked here in a second, I would believe. But maximum points you can get on this turn is now going to be 7, and 7 is not 8, and 8 is the number that you need to win the game. So Tog knows, okay, I'm on a 2-turn clock at the fastest, so I can save all of my units back in base, set up this big alpha strike to double take and win the game, where my opponent, take the monastery, don't care, does not matter.
Yeah, super tricky here. I mean, with only 5 energy available now from Vendorty's side, I think Vendorty's back is against the wall here as they try to figure out what the best way is to just prevent defeat in the next turn. The good news is that, if I had to guess, we played the first mate, we played the the Poro, and I think there was a Cithria as well, right? So we know what's in Tog's hand.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're mostly playing face up here. So this is now Vendorty's puzzle to solve, and this is why I am in the booth here, is because these kind of puzzles, they're complicated, they're intricate, and I'm gonna let Vendorty do the math here. This is the set special.
Yeah, I mean, first play almost certainly is the Hirana set, get the buff, spend the buff to draw a card trick, I would imagine, unless their top deck was fantastic. But also possibly not, I guess possibly not, because you just need a body. You need stats right now.
Yeah. I wonder, I mean, like, here's the other question too, is I feel like you can't even, like, you need stats, and they kind of have to be, like, above rate too. And
well,
wow, the third set, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You asked for above rate, there it is.
Powerful, powerful. So we have 2 5-might units in one battlefield and a single 5-might in the other. And it seems pretty insulated here. Now, the question is whether or not this is going to Kinko Monk off the top.
Yeah, that's chunky. So,
That's
I mean,
a good one. All right.
Yeah, are we just at 5 and 5, 10, plus another 5? So that's 15 total. We've got 5, 6, 7, 13. I mean, we've got the raw numbers. Can we line it up and also play through a potential buff spell here?
Yeah, so something that's also kind of interesting too, and I just thought about this, is that now that we're in the top cut, deck lists are actually public, available, and open. So with all energy exhausted, Tog actually knows the coast is clear. We just need to find the answer to this puzzle. I think we talked earlier about like the 10 orange, the 10 body versus 2 order rune split. And I've been racking my brain this entire time, because when I looked at Vendorty's deck list, I actually did not see any cards that needed that that orange rune cost. Sorry, not the order rune cost.
Yep.
It's possibly to just bluff Hidden Blade.
Yeah, Hidden Blade. Can we not play? I'm completely blanking on name of card that spends a buff to give +3.
Oh, Call to Glory. Yeah, good call. Good call.
That's
Glory.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing. A great call to Glory there. I mean, that's the only thing that can be played, right? Like, yeah, and it does not cost any power. So, I mean, if it's there, it's there. Tog is going to play around it as much as possible. And you know, here we're going to present lethal, I would imagine.
Yep. So with the buffs all calculated in, we now have a total of 15 might against the 10 might here for Vendorty, which is very clearly great call out here for the Call to Glory. We can consume the buff.
Yep.
Pump our set.
Only a +2.
Okay.
That puts us to 12.
So not enough then?
No.
Oh no, interesting. Take a look at this. We actually consumed the buff to buff the set Brawler in the Reckoner's Arena to prevent lethal this turn. That's an incredible play.
Okay. I like it. Yes. Wow,
right.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you get to this top cut. You find the play that gives you 1 extra draw step, and you got to cross your fingers and hope that that draw step will help you win the game. And keep in mind also that Vendorty is at 7, so if we get to hold here, we just win.
Right.
Oh, and it's called the glory of Tog's own!
Oh!
Wow!
And there it is.
That's so crazy, because Tog was also top decking as well. Both players top deck Call to Glory for an insane final turn here. Tog is going to come out ahead, winning the very first game here in the quarterfinals. Set beating set. Good call. You got it right.
Wow, I was just thinking of possibilities, and it was there. And then Tog said, "Hold my Call to Glory" as well, because
it's one of the very few cards that actually matters in that low resource game state.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the decks clearly are built for that, right? Like, we saw pretty much power usage every single turn. It's like, okay, if I have 4 or 5 runes, I'm good to go. I have my free spells. I've got my... I mean, we're getting 2 runes a turn, which is something from other games we're not necessarily used to, that level of ramp essentially just built into the game. So going down to 3 runes, no problem. I've got a bunch of cheap units. I max out at about 5 here. and we're good to go. We're looking at Vendorty's list here. Anu, what are we thinking for the sideboard here? We talked about the Fiora, maybe an easy cut.
Yeah, so looking at the sideboard right now, we're seeing a couple copies of Cannon Barrage. We have 3 copies of Noxian Drummer and 3 copies of Anivia, which is quite exciting. In the main deck, I'm going to be very honest with you, we saw Fiora kind of raising an eyebrow, but then Sabotage also feels like the kind of card that just like, we're not here to play games with, discard or recycling and things like that. Let's just duke it out, right? Truly set playstyle. So those are the 2 cards I identify as maybe not being great. And if we're looking at next best options, I mean, maybe we are bringing in this Noxian Drummer. Maybe we are bringing in the Anivia. Anivia card that I feel like hasn't really had its time in the spotlight.
Well, if we look at last game, the way that the players played the matchup, we were never close to seeing Anivia in play, right? Like the game plan would have had to have been very different. So I don't know if you basically transition your entire game plan for Anivia, but we certainly could see that. Seeing quite a different look here on Tog's side, though. We're not seeing the Fioras. We are still seeing the Sabotage. I'm curious where the players land on whether you want Sabotage or not, because I'm kind of sold on it being there, even if it's just a very expensive Gitaxian probe.
Yeah.
Like being able to see if the coast is clear seems quite good for this matchup.
Looking at the sideboard here for Tog, we've got 3 copies of Wallop, 1 copy of Arena Bar, 3 copies of Leona Determined, and 1 copy of Sett Brawler, which I love. Any cards here shout out to you as being an upgrade to the main deck?
Yeah, I mean, the Arena Bar does theoretically seem great. However, we've just seen the velocity that we can get buffs out just be so strong that I don't know that we even need the Arena Bar. But we will see as we hop into game number 2. Tog up a game, our first seed up a game here with Vendorty on the back foot. They are going to be able to choose whether they go first or second here. I imagine we're just going first. I think that's what Tog chose last game, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, all the time, every time seems reasonable here. I think just one of the adages or guidelines
Maxims.
that
yeah
like that Tog told me when I was talking to him was just really maximize your power that you're putting on board in the first few turns. Really just sort of if you can put 6 points of power instead of 5, do that. And if it means you're splitting it up in amongst 3 creatures, okay, cool, let's get 6 points in. Now obviously everything's going to be case by case here, but we're going to see on the Vendorty's turn, we have the simple Pit Rookie coming into play, no buffs. And then on the other side, we have Cythria. And I'll also briefly mention we've got Windswept Hillock and the Hirana Monastery from Vendorty. So going to be kind of interesting as Kiana now enters Vendorty's base.
Yeah, we did not see Kiana at all last game on either side. And I think a Kiana getting active and either keeping the cards flowing or keeping that rune production up may actually be able to change the texture of the game quite a bit. If Vendorty went for that sort of go tall with the Anivias, being able to actually keep up on resources while also still playing those powerful spells and those power-hungry spells via Kiana may actually be a way to go over the top with the Anivias.
All right, so you can see Tog, sort of deep in the tank here. Let's take a look at what the considerations are. With 5 energy available, our hand is looking very good. So I see 2 copies of First Mate, the Hidden Blade, Challenge, Showstopper, and then on Vendorty's side, almost a symmetrical hand, First Mate, Challenge, Call to Glory. We saw how good that was at the end of the last game, and Fiora. So breaking down the turn here, anything in particular that you see? I guess there is a 6th card in Tog's hand, which is going to be the Chosen Champion. Did we actually? We did switch out the Chosen Champion for Sett Brawler.
Oh, wow. It makes sense. I mean, we saw the Sett Brawler really play a big role in Vendorty being in that game because it seemed like Tog was very far ahead, had that really sort of what seemed like unbreakable wall on the Monastery last game that got taken down by the Sett Brawler. So I think just this, it seems like both players have evaluated the matchup as we need to go big and we need to go big fast, and having the Sett Brawler there feels like it is the best way to do that.
Wow. Okay,
that this, even see it played now.
Yeah, very interesting, and this looks almost like a copy of the last game, which is turn 2, Sett Brawler just coming into play here. Both creatures are going to get buffed, Sett by its enters play ability, and then Cythria for when another unit enters play. And Cythria going to come into combat. That's going to start a showdown. What's really interesting now is that both players are going after the Windswept Hillock. What's your thought process on that? Why not just take the open Monastery of Hirana and draw a card?
Well, like you were saying, Tog wants to get as much power in play as possible, as fast as possible. And you can do that by playing cards, or you can effectively do that by removing power from your opponent, right? That's kind of a free trade here. Cythria eating the Pit Pookie, and then using the Sett ability to spend her buff to recall her back, effectively just eating the unit for free. Feels strong, right? Like, I like the board control here. Obviously, yes, we could cash in the buff there in the Monastery for a card, but if you've got the cards in hand, if you've got enough cards in hand right now to play the game plan for the next few turns, like, get the board under control, and then once you've got that, start drawing those cards in the Monastery.
Yeah, another thing that I'm thinking about too is just kind of how Windswept Hillock really just changes the dynamic of the game, right? Because once it gives all of your units ganking, you know, standing at the top of the tower, deciding when you want to either go to base or just attack combat from another angle while scoring or holding points is a very, very powerful mechanic. And I think when you also transition from the Kingpin to the Brawler as your chosen champion, that certainly does, incentivize you to maximize options for how much might you can spend in different places.
Oh, it really showcases the beauty of Riftbound compared to other games right now, where we're seeing game 2 here, and we're seeing a lot of the same cards. I don't believe we've seen a sideboard card yet, but the matchup feels excessively different because of the Hillock being there, right? Before we saw basically a solo showdown for the first few turns of the game on the Monastery, and now it's going to be on the Hillock. And then once the Hillock is taken, the texture of the game changes again, because now the person who has the Hillock is now threatening both battlefields while they control just one.
Wow, and this is actually kind of insane here. So we did use the Sett passive ability to protect the Cythria from combat, and now we're seeing Call to Glory combined with Challenge to punish that exhaust on the Sett. We lose probably our one of our best cards, and this is even crazier. Look, Hidden Blade on the Kiana, having to pay the additional deflect cost, giving Vendorty 2 cards just for 1 point. That's that's a big commitment to just getting on the board.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is, but also a Kiana that you don't have the ability to threaten at all is going to take over the game, whether it's the card advantage flowing or the rune production flowing. It doesn't matter. Like, pick. You can just, if it gave you the choice at random, it would still be winning the game on its own. And here we see the Sabotage is staying in the deck, at least for Vendorty here.
All right, so I believe, luck is somewhat zero-sum, and last time we didn't really get to take a card here from Tog's hand. This time we have plenty of options here. Double Showstopper, Challenge, Hidden Blade, and a First Mate. Which of these 4 options are you interested in taking?
I am looking at the Hidden Blade here. It is the unconditional removal spell, right? Yes, it gives your opponent it gives your opponent 2 cards, which is, Vendorty would like to have the 2 cards for sure, but you can sort of control the effectiveness of the other removal spells by dealing with the board. If you have board control, these effective fight spells don't do anything, or they're much less effective, whereas Hidden Blade is always going to be good.
Yeah, very strong call out here. So we're going to finish this turn with Fiora, and we're going to recycle a rune for Showstopper, entering into the Monastery of Hirana. And did we consume the buff to draw a card? I don't believe we did.
No, we gave Fiora Mighty, which now means that she's got deflect, ganking, and shield. So even though in the Monastery and not the Hillock does have ganking.
Yeah, which is really interesting. Ganking is a keyword that has significantly grown on me. Realizing that the game is really like limited by where you can go and how you can go. This is, my experience as a Leona main who didn't really quite get there. I have a profound respect now for the ganking mechanic. And, we saw what happened when we were fighting over the Windswept Hillock earlier. And now Vendorty has sort of flipped the script and says like, hey, I can go where I want to go, when I want to go, how I want to go, thanks to this mighty Fiora.
Yeah, and we were talking about the breakpoints, the might breakpoints in the last game. Fiora with shield is not quite at that 9, but is at 6, which is quite a strong one, especially given the texture of the board right now. Like, it is going to take quite a few resources to deal with this Fiora, and if it's not dealt with properly, like being able to gank over to the Hillock is going to be a strong option.
Oh, and there it is. That's one of the sideboard cards that Tog has brought in for the matchup. It's Leona, and we're playing the Showstopper as well to move Leona into the Windswept Hillock, which is kind of interesting. I guess we don't really win combat here, right? Because Leona's going to bump up from 4 to 5 with the buff, and that will lose the shield that you just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, we did not know that 6 was a breakpoint, but the buffed Leona stunning and just having them bump off, I guess 6 is a breakpoint that we didn't know about, and a very relevant one in this case, because now Tog has to decide, or has to go for the Hillock and not the Monastery, being able to potentially take out that Fiora, and now it's a similar situation that we saw last game. Both players controlling one battlefield, except now the tempo is in Vendorty's favor. The clock, so to speak, is in Vendorty's favor, and now Tog has to act first.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we do still have knowledge of that call to glory that is in Vendorty's hands. So should, Tog have decided to move into the Monastery of Hirana with the first mate and the Leona, we would consume the buff, go up to a total of 8 might thanks to shield plus the 3 from Call to Glory, and then just completely, well, I guess we trade, right? 5 plus 3 versus, the 8 equals 8. Great, okay, cool. I can still do some math. The problem is though, the deflect cost, because one thing that I'm sort of thinking about here is like, you can make proactive moves, I mean, you can advance onto the board, but if you go too deep, you must have a way to get back out and go back in again, and that is usually a function of your rune reserve. How much energy do you have to spend on the next few turns?
Exactly, and Vendorty seems to have stayed ahead on the rune economy here. We're seeing both players valuing their board presence, right? Using spells and abilities to actually retreat and recall their units, because you do not want to let your opponent just get free trades or favorable trade ups, if you will, if you can possibly prevent it here. But we see Vendorty do the Monastery of Hirana set Brawler trick, which is, I think it's got to be one of the key interactions in this entire matchup, but Vendorty taking massive advantage here, has card advantage, has rune advantage, has board is a bit in parity, but it very quickly can change with that Call to Glory, and we are seeing Vendorty hit that 6-point threshold where now we're potentially 1 turn away from winning.
All right, first mate going to come into base. It's going to ready the Sett Brawler, and then Sett Brawler is going to move back to base, and we're going to finish up the turn here with another Trifarian Glory Seeker that is going to get buffed, and a second one too. So now we're seeing like a little bit of role reversal, where in the first game, Tog was able to go wide and assemble a variety of buffs. This time it's Vendorty's turn to assemble that potpourri.
Yeah, this is like textbook tempo, right? Like Vendorty has been a half a step ahead every turn of the game. We've not quite seen that huge game-defining combat yet, but Vendorty is threatening lethal next turn, whereas Tog can't possibly win at 5 points. They can take a maximum of 2 with this deck. That is not enough to win, which means Tog now has to not only put points on the board, but also set up a board that is not going to get double taken by Vendorty here, because he'll just lose the game.
Yeah, and you can sort of see here that Vendorty has predicted this sort of line and has set up for a great follow-up turn afterwards, with the set being able to consume the buff and just gain massive amounts of might, and then also just going wide with the smaller, cheaper units.
Yeah, we're seeing the attack come in here. We're going to stun the unit here and present this attack. If this goes through, we're going to use set. Oh no, we're not using set's ability. Okay, we're letting the Fiora die here.
Now that's super interesting. That must signal that Vendorty has some available options in the hand for the rebound turn. And okay, there's Showstopper, first mate, gonna get buffed. And where's it gonna move? Is it gonna move to the monastery? It is.
It's gonna move to the monastery, get the 7th point. Looks like we are going to cash that in for a card. So basically just cantripping the Showstopper, which is of course not the most effective usage of the card. However, if you don't have the means to win in your hand, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, definitely a sign of weakness here being presented by Tog, and Vendorty making it to the top cut here definitely will pick up on that signal, and might just be able to use that to seal game 2.
It's certainly looking in Vendorty's favor. Of course, we still know that there's that call to glory that we've seen since the beginning of the game. In hand, going to be able to throw combat in their favor most likely, but Tog is not in the position to be able to play around too much here, right? Like Tog very limited on resources, very limited on what they can do here. So it's really a put your cards on the table and hope your opponent does not have the tricks to win, because you're out of options.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to wonder, like, on board, is Vendorty already ahead? Like we have, 3 from the Glory Seeker, at least 8 from the set. Oh, we're challenging. Okay, wait, maybe we have a solution here. Okay, so the challenge represents a decrease in might from the set Brawler. And then what's going on with this Leona?
Okay, the Leona traded, and we set ability to bring it back to base, and then we used another Showstopper to bring it back to the Hillock.
Okay, so our defenses are primed. Now, if you look at the rune situation here from Tog's side, like we've only got 2 runes compared to the 8 on the other side, but do what you got to do, right? Like we saw it in the last game here, and so let's see how it plays out.
I mean, you've got to make it to another turn to have a chance at winning, right? You can worry about the figuring out a way to win afterwards, but if you're dead, you're dead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with open deck lists, we can kind of identify what our options available are. And if memory serves correctly, the only thing that we really need to play around from both sides is that call to glory for when it comes to 1 energy or less, because the only 1 energy cards that I remember seeing were Showstopper and Steel Sabotage from both sides.
Right.
All right. So, Vendorty, can you even up the score here with your battlefield? Now, I kind of wonder, look at all of these extra runes that we have. Were we supposed to keep the Fiora around? Because that would have been an additional 4 might that could have mattered, but perhaps the reason we let the Fiora go away was to preserve the set passive for a stronger unit?
Well, the set passive... Oh, yeah, I suppose, because we ended up using the set passive on...
The Brawler?
the Brawler, so it does make sense. But you're right. It is certainly no. I guess yeah. The set Brawler is just more power, I suppose. But weirdly enough, Tog kind of out of nowhere has put together this very beefy board, and Vendorty, while having a massive rune advantage, the board presence is really not there.
All right, we've got 3 units coming in to the Windswept Hillock. Leona is going to proc shield. Oh, are we sending in the Brawler as well? Okay.
And this has to be some sort of showstopper turn, because I was talking about how Vendorty was on a 1-turn clock, like could win this turn, but also because Tog took both battlefields last turn, now Tog can win on their turn as well. Vendorty needs to contest both of these, not just to win, but also to not lose.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And like if you're in Tog's seat, like this is the only possibility that could be making sense here. And so real quick, we have 3+3 on the Monastery of Harana, so we'll register that in for a little bit later. But looking at the Windswept Hillock, we've got First Mate at 3, Leona going up to 6 thanks to the shield. And we must certainly be ahead here, right? 3 plus 4 from the set and the Glory Seeker gives us 7, 8, 9, 10, a total of 11, 12, 13 might going after the Leona and the First Mate. So, Tog, what are you thinking about? What do you have? And if you're in the tank here, then that must mean you're thinking about how to use your Call of Glory. Can we really assume that he drew another one? That's kind of crazy in 2 games.
Maybe this is just the production curse or blessing, depending on who you're rooting for here. But it's awesome for us to have the Call to Glory show up at that opportune time.
All right, so what's going on right now? We have set. There's a buff. 7 points each.
I have to imagine a showstopper here.
Oh, First Mate.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
First Mate does it too.
That'll do it. Looking at 8 might against 6. And that should be the 8th point.
That looks like it is.
All right, Vendorty is going to take the second game here and is going to even up the score 1-1. We're going to a game 3.
Yeah, I'm really getting a lot of respect for set decks and both of these players, because neither of these games were blowouts at all. In fact, they were won by the smallest of margins. Like, both games, one player was marginally ahead on tempo, like a half a turn ahead on tempo. There's maybe one. That last game, there wasn't even really a huge blowout combat. It was just trading tit for tat, Vendorty staying slightly ahead and just barely pulling off. Like, Vendorty needed to put something together there to win the game, but also to not lose, because Tog was going to win on the following turn.
All right, well, let's take a look at Tog's sideboard once again as we're going to go into Game 3, see if there are any fine-tuning or readjustments that we need to make. As a reminder, in the sideboard, there are 3 copies of Wallop, 1 copy of Arena Bar, 3 copies of Leona Determined, and 1 set Brawler. Now, we did see the set Brawler come in, and the Leonas. How did you feel about them in Game 2?
Yeah, set Brawler definitely is the board presence that you're looking for. Leona felt good. It felt like it made combats a bit easier. It's one of those cards that's really kind of hard to evaluate until you've played hundreds and hundreds of games of the matchup, because in theory it works out, and it worked out fine in the last game that we saw it, but it didn't seem like it really took over the game or was a huge impactful piece like we would normally see out of a sideboard card that could potentially be very strong in a matchup. This just felt kind of okay, but also felt like it could easily be replaced with any of the main deck cards, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. And looking at the other sideboard here for Vendorty, let's take a look and see what our options are. We had 2 copies of Cannon Barrage, 3 Noxian Drummers, and the 3 Anivias, and I don't think we saw any of these cards show up in Game 2.
We didn't see any of them show up in Game 2. I don't know that we... Although I will say that the rune situation for Vendorty last game would have allowed him to potentially cast Anivia at one point or another. Now, I don't know if that would necessarily be good, but it certainly is a card that can win those giant combats that we're seeing where there's one really, really heavily defended battlefield. A showstopper on an Anivia can take out almost anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Like in that last board state where we saw a couple units on the Windswept Hillock, that was a great time for Anivia. And going into Game 3, we have our last set of battlefields, Grove of the God Willow for Tog and Vile Maw's Lair for Vendorty. This is going to be an interesting game number 3.
Yeah, the Vile Maw's Lair is very interesting because once again, we're seeing the same matchup that, and I believe it is going to play out very differently based on the battlefields here, because the standard play of take a battlefield, get the points, and then retreat your units cannot do that on the Vile Maw's Lair.
Well, very interesting too. So with our first turn, we played Pit Rookie from Tog's side. That's going to be matched by First Mate. Pit Rookie going to attempt to take the first point, and interesting observation, but guess who's back in the Chosen Champion zone here for Tog?
Yeah, it is the Sett. I wonder, is it just a play draw thing? It must be, right?
Yeah, that's actually really interesting, right? The difference between 4 energy spent versus 5 energy spent. Now going back to the board, First Mate going to take down the Pit Rookie. We are staring down that Leona Determined on the in base for Tog. So I think at this point, the name of the game is don't let my opponent draw any extra cards. Plus, like, who really even wants to go into Vile Maw's Lair? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I don't think that you're going to feel very good about doing that, for sure. And to go to the Chosen Champion topic real quick, thinking about it now, it makes perfect sense. It's on the play, your turn 2, you'll always have the ability to play 4-cost Sett. If you're going second, you will on turn 2 have 5 runes and can play Sett Brawler. So it may just be as simple as that, but it's actually just genius to swap it on play draw.
Yeah, I want to say, like, for players who are new to this archetype, take notes. But the way that both of these players are playing, I'd say players of all skill levels, like, there's going to be a pop quiz after this where I want you to tell me every single really cool play that... No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that to you. It's late for some folks here. So, but yeah, we're going to follow up here with Pit Rookie buffing the Leona, which means that Sett Brawler from Vendorty's side will not just get a free combat, and also means that when Leona comes back in... she's going to be able to proc that stun. So kind of seeing the upside to a card like Leona in this matchup. It really does give you that sort of unit combat control, which is like exciting. I don't know. Something about it. Just like it's good tech.
I mean, when we're seeing units in battle and battle based abilities, that's just fun. That's good, clean, honest Riftbound, and that's what I like to see.
Ooh, okay, Sabotage.
We're not seeing that on this hand.
We saw Sabotage stay in for game number 2, and now we're seeing it once again in game number 3, and it's going to reveal Showstopper, Double Challenge, and the Call to Glory, and wow, that is just like very, very good here for Tog. We're going to end up taking the Call to Glory. What's your thought process on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it throws off your math so much, and even knowing it's there doesn't necessarily make it easier because you have to set up these attacks that play around it, knowing that it's there, and your opponent can go, okay, I'll allow it, and not play the Call to Glory, and that can also throw off your math. So it's like it's a lose-lose. Also, it allows the Sett Brawler to not lose this combat, which is, of course, quite relevant at this juncture of the game.
You want to play a fun little mini game? Over under on 1.5 cards being drawn from the Grove of the God Willow in this game.
Ooh,
that's a tough one, right? That's a tough one.
That's, I mean, are you Vegas odd maker?
Yeah,
it's me. I am Mr. Vegas.
One thing that I will also mention here, just for viewers at home, I know it says time is up, but these are actually untimed rounds in the top cut, so players may take a little bit more time. We aren't going to do any sudden death rules or anything like that. This is just truly, you know, a beatdown, a brawl. May the mightiest player come out ahead here. I'll say one thing too, which is we actually know a little bit more information about our bracket, and the winner of this match is going to be paired up against the Eye of the Storm, Volley Bear, which is great. Exciting.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm super pumped to see Volley make a resurgence here. Volley was sort of public enemy number one in the way too few cards were revealed to actually play a tournament, but we're all psychos and wanted to play one anyway. And it really fell off hard after the basically very first week of Riftbound being played in a tournament setting, and to see it come back, make a top 8, and now make a top 4 is making an argument to actually, you know, keep brewing, keep testing, keep playing this sort of go over the top archetype that is Volley Bear.
Yeah, so for Vendorty's turn, we wrapped up with the first mate to allow the Sett Brawler to come back to base, seeing that the Leona is there, knowing that, you know, we're not going to win into combat against Leona. So we're setting up for the next few turns, and then Tog is going to be... Let's actually take a look at Tog's hand now. We did know about a couple pieces here, if I can find my mouse. And looking at the hand here for Tog, we have the double challenges and the double showstopper. So I think this is actually all known information, but from the other side... Wow, Vendorty is packing a great hand.
Yeah, that is the Call to Glory, which is certainly one of the key cards in the matchup. Kinku Monk able to just put so much might onto the battlefield, or onto the field, and of course, Sett Brawler has seemed to be an absolute key piece to not just Vendorty's deck, but even Tog's deck now too.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think it does feel like Sett Brawler is kind of like the mirror breaker. No puns intended or anything like that, but just like, you know, sheer raw combat strength. And so having that second copy in hand, got to be pretty good for Vendorty.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about him making infinite copies of Deceiver Exarch there for a second, but
that sounds like trauma. And you know what? We can unpack it after the event for sure.
No, I was one of the filthy Splinter Twin players. It's me. I'm the problem.
Well, speaking of the problem, it's kind of tricky here because you saw that Tog was about to move the Pit Rookie into the Vile Maw's lair, but then opted not to, instead going into the Grove of the Godvilla with a showstoppered Leona. So she's now sitting at 5 might with a buff. And I think this might just be for like point parity or something like that. You know, we can't really fall behind, and we may end up having to use our set to recall the Leona later on. Now the hand is double challenge, and I don't actually even see a really good opportunity for challenge to do its thing here.
Well, if we challenge, okay, we're going back here. Leona will be 5 power. No, there's not a super great challenge here. No, there really isn't. I mean, obviously, you would love to hit the Sett Brawler, but even if you did, Sett ability from Vendorty's side kind of just trades a power for that, and the power and the buff, of course, and you're kind of okay with it. But it looks like we're just setting up the wall again with Sett and now Leona both having a buff apiece. And there it is, our first point taken from Vile Maw's lair.
Hey, I did see what you did there, by the way, setting up the wall with the set. Okay, nice. Virtual Air 5. As a dad of a 1-year-old, I've finally been like writing up my playbook, and that one's going in there for sure.
There it is. I was going to lay some odds, though, for you, that the odds may have changed. It was going to be over under 1.5 points scored from Vile Maw's lair total this game, but maybe it's 2.5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, too, because, like, when you throw a creature into the Vile Maw's lair, it's really, like, you can't really throw units that you truly care about. And I guess that's just a sign here that Vendorty might be able to pick up on is like, what does Tog value this pit rookie at? Now, going back to the board here, we're going to see Sett Brawler is going to consume the buff, and then is that a
hard cast
well?
call to glory? Yeah, hard cast. Like just pay the printed cost as Garfield intended.
All right, so 13 might here for Tog, and then what do we have from Vendorty? Enough to break up the battlefield.
13.
That's what matters. Yeah.
Yeah, not 13 has been called, and we are once again seeing a massive rune advantage on the side of Vendorty here.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I feel like what went wrong here for Tog was just like, and I don't even know if this is something you can really attribute to like play skill, but just like drawing double challenge, double showstopper, committing the Sett Kingpin to the Vile Mauslayer. Okay. This is a big gambit.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? Like, get your points. So stay slightly ahead on points, or at least at point parity here, and hope that. I mean, are we gonna end up fighting over the Vile Mauslayer? Okay, we're gonna eat. We're gonna eat a unit there and a follow up of something.
All right,
Okay,
Trifarian Glory Seeker.
Where's
Are
it
we
going
committing?
though?
We don't know yet. Where's it going? Okay, in base. Yeah. This is challenging. It's gonna be the first card that's drawn off the Grove of the Godwillow, and I feel like the margins in this game, like not just like this mirror match in general, but in Riftbound, they're so tight that even a single card in a matchup like this is going to be enough to just break the game wide open. And so you can sort of see Tog's posture here as he's sort of evaluating the overwhelming amount of runes, maybe the extra cards that are being drawn here. We've committed our Sett to the Vile Mauslayer, like racking his brain for an answer. What is the out?
I mean, at this point, you've given up the rune advantage. You've given up the cards in hand advantage. If you're Tog, I think you just have to go, I need to win as fast as possible. I need to, right now, I'm technically ahead on the race here. Last card discarded, so it's just off the top for Tog. You're technically winning the race as it stands right now. Almost to the moon. Let's do it.
Yeah. So let's see how the rest of this turn plays out. Oh, maybe. Okay, yeah, we're bringing back Sett Brawler here, putting in the first mate, so they're just doing a little switcheroo here.
Yeah, makes sense. You got to be able to, like, if you see, like, Tog's hand is face up. Everything that they have is on the table, so you know they are trying to hold the Vile Mauslayer and are going to try to win that way. And there's not really many options given that it is Vile Mauslayer, right? There's not other options to remove that Sett. So if you can just take out that battlefield, you're going to win the game.
Yeah, and take a look at this. So Vendorty kind of sees the line and says, I'm going to keep my key creatures here in the base, both of my 8 might units, and I'm going to put enough might into the Grove of the Godwillow so that it's going to cost you a lot in order to take this battlefield. Because if you don't, I'm going to draw another card. You must, and I'm also going to get another point. After that, if you do overextend, well, guess what? Here's a left fist, right fist, and I'm going to win the game. So,
yeah, very
interesting double bind that Vendorty is now setting up for Tog.
Yeah, I mean, this is just resources getting ahead here, right? Like, Vendorty has so much. Tog drew the Pit Pookie off the top. Is, I imagine, going to put everything into the Vile Mauslayer and hope. No, actually isn't. I do respect it. If you're not dead on board, like, play to win, don't play to not lose.
Yeah, but this is so interesting because, like, now Vendorty just, like, has so many options, right? Like, just imagine, at base default, you have 16 might with the 2 sets, and okay, maybe we're just gonna aim for the moon here. 1 single unit coming in, and that's gonna be a total of 9 might, which is it's gonna dominate here. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep, that's gonna do it for 1 additional might here, and a follow-up of a ham sandwich feels like it would be good enough, but we will take cards as well. Was that another? Was that a Cythria?
Yep, looked like the Cythria, looked like a Noxian Drummer, and so the Grove of the Godwillow is absolutely loaded, and I feel like the only way that Tog might even be able to get out of this situation is to like get Vendorty's Anivia.
The flip the top. Oh, it's
Ooh. Does that do anything here?
Oh,
okay. I'm gonna assume no. Yeah. And you can see Tog picking up all the cards here, saying GG's as Vendorty takes down the Sett master in the mirror match, 2-1, advancing to the top 4. Now, Vendorty has a special prize awaiting him, and that is a very angry bear. Volibear also advancing to top 4.
Yeah, love to see it. I mean, an upset in our first game, right? 8 seed taking out the 1 seed. Now, obviously, both players played that matchup super well. I mean, that last game was a little bit one-sided in Vendorty's favor in that game, but the match in general, like you said, a single card in a single game can really turn the tide. A single unit being played to an incorrect battlefield or your base could definitely have made the difference in that game, in a single game, and in that match. And it was really awesome to see high-level Riftbound played in a mirror match like we just saw.
Yeah, I got a couple things that I want to talk about. The first is kind of just like the evolution, the progression of the metagame, right? So we've seen, the Sett Kingpin build that Tog has been championing, and if Sett is really good into Kaisa, which was the expected, boogie champion legend of this tournament, well, that's great. And now Vendorty is coming in with the mirror breaker almost, right? So moving along, we'll take a look at the bracket here. So Vendorty is going to be playing against Migan on Volibear, who we saw earlier today. And then on the other side, Hook Darius, with the hands of Prismaticism, is going to take down Jay. But we're going to see Master Yi make it into the top 4 here. So that'll be our other matchup. Right now, we're going to cut to a quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes with our next match in the top 4. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.